piace la musica, qualsiasi tipo di musica, ci sono tante radio da ascoltare. Ma se il calcio è la tua passione, c'è solo una radio che ti aggiorna, ti informa, che ti segue in macchina al lavoro, a casa e nel tempo libero, sia in streaming sia in onde medie. È Radio Calcio Seguogi, la prima e unica emittente totalmente parlata e dedicata al calcio della regione, dilettantistico e professionistico, mattiniero e femminile, e anche il calcio giovanile e amatoriale, unendo le notizie di attualità, viabilità e meteo. Radio Calcio Seguogi ricerca continuamente
spaccata. E gioielleria.
ma vicino che?
Va bene, porta maggiore. Michela, civile 148.
Dybala! He is something else. Di Lorenzo, and still Di Lorenzo! The captain brings the house down. Partenopea champions once again, but the 33-year wait will now officially come to an end.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast for your culture to go. I'm Frank Ravello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing, man?
We're doing good. We're just flying through life right now. Between the kids with a whole bunch of soccer, trying to get the work done, all this, and got a convention in Vegas that I'm going to be in next week. So Michael Lisi will be in my place next week, holding it down with Richard. We'll have the NWO themes, I'm sure, and all the other stuff in between. So.
Know me too well.
How about yourself? How are you?
I'm all right. I'm doing well. I'm with you there on life. Just being crazy at the moment, in a good way, obviously a good way, but obviously life takes over at times, and so. But no, I'm good. I'm healthy. Cannot complain, and there's plenty of culture to watch. So. Yeah,
good, bad, or indifferent. Who's motivated, who's not, what people have to play for. It's always this time of the season. The title's been decided. Things get kind of drab. You got relegation fight. You got some top 4, top 5 stuff going on. And all this other stuff. But then you've got some teams that are already looking like they're ready to hit the beach. Or in this case, this summer, there's not going to be much time for the beach. They're all going to have to go to their national teams for the Euros and for Copa America. A summer with Euros and Copa America at the same time. Just
there's that, and then we're probably gonna have to hit the beach as well at some point too, right? It's so.
Exactly. So, which segues into, and I don't think the post made it on Twitter, so we're just gonna have to go with it. So, Richard and I have an announcement to make here before we get started with the culture review, and we have had multiple conversations here over the last several weeks about what we want out of the future of Serie A Sit Down. We have put 8 seasons into this, over 300 podcasts, and we have had, for not having a budget and not getting paid to do this, we really, it is a labor of love for us. We do dedicate our time and our energy to make sure that we deliver a podcast that you want to keep coming back to and keep listening to. Having said that, life is making it harder and harder for us to continue to deliver on a weekly basis at a very high level. With the conclusion of our Review della Madonnina, our season-ending podcast here at the end of the season, Serie A Sit Down will be taking the summer off, and when we return next season, we will be working in more of a monthly format, okay? We're really excited about this. I think that this is going to give us the proper time to dedicate, going week after week, recapping the big games, recapping the big situations. It's kind of gotten a little redundant, and it's required a lot of energy from both of us to continue to keep up with it. Things are going on in our lives. Our kids are growing up before our eyes, and they're getting more committed to activities. Work is going bonkers for me. Work is going bonkers for Richard. I'm sure I'll let Richard speak for himself on some of this as well. And we have wives, and we'd like to keep them. So our call here is, our decision was, and we thought of a bunch of things, and a lot of things are on the table. So what you're going to find Serie A Sit Down to be in the future, we're going to be a monthly podcast, and it's going to be a nice monthly magazine format. And we're really, like I said, we're really excited about the content that we're going to bring on those podcasts. We're not going to be the recap show on steroids that we've been here for the last 8 seasons. We're going to continue to profile players. We've done that really well. The other thing, this is going to give us some flexibility to pick and choose what time we want to get together. So we might get together and do this on a Sunday morning where we can pull a guest from Europe and have them on and have them give their perspective. So we're going to probably fly all over the place when we actually do this. We're not going to be tied down to a particular time. We'll see. We'll discuss some other things. We'll probably do like a little team of the month, players that have caught our eye for that particular month from podcast to podcast, and so on and so forth. we're excited about the changes. We still want to stay connected to the Calcio community because I think in the last 8 seasons, Richard, we made a lot of friends, made a lot of connections, in this time, and we don't want to just completely walk away from everybody. But we also know that we can't, I'll speak for myself. It's getting harder and harder for me, to bring the goods on a weekly basis for this podcast. And, so the decision for Richard and I is to go monthly. Richard, give your reflections on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what you said. We're scaling back. We do love Calcio. That's never going to change. The life is busy, and watching every game every week, every weekend. On top of our lives, on top of work, everything. It gets taxing at times. And as Frank said, we're looking at bringing a fresh perspective on things and different how we've done it in the past. That means maybe a once a month type deal, but where we can focus on other things and get away from the recap stuff. Do more deep dives on teams and players and bring in guests and talk about that kind of stuff. So we're excited about it, and I think it's going to help us certainly for as busy as we are in our lives. We're not getting paid for this, so we're not. It's hard to devote so much time to it. And like Frank said, both of us love to keep our man caves. Keep a happy wife, happy life. And so that's part a little bit of it, but mostly it's life is just busy at the moment, and we have other priorities in our lives, understandably. And so anyway, we can still stay in the Couch community. We're going to do it, and scaling back to a monthly type deal, podcast episodes. I think it'll be a good way to do it, and that way we can keep it fresh, like Frank said, and it'll be fun. We still want to keep close to the community. It's lots of people we've met over the years, lots of great people. I mean, obviously people in chat right now like Vincent, and Eduardo, and Anthony, and the list goes on and on and on. All the podcasts we've been in touch with have been great. So we still want to be part of that, but keeping up on the weekly basis, the daily basis, it's a grind, man, and it's hard. And we're just as we're getting up there in age, priorities have shifted. So we're gonna change how the format is, and today I sit down, but we'll still be around. The YouTube will still be going around, podcasts will be going on still. So we'll try to give as much warning as we can before the show happens. But and we'll take obviously any suggestions along the way, and it'll help us get more on the creative side as well, and think outside of the box in terms of how we've done it over the last 8 years. So we're excited. I think this gives us a chance to be even more interactive with our listeners. It give them an opportunity to, we got a month. Is there a player that you want us to talk about and profile and talk about their traits and characteristics, and or if there's something with a team or something with is this club in crisis, that sort of thing, to give us some things to tackle. So so this will give us a chance. It'll give us a chance to reconnect with the European guests that we have had on through the years, which Tuesday nights at 9:00 Eastern, you can just never get them on. They're all in bed. It gives us a chance to, it gives us a chance to freshen the brand, which I think was needed. So all of this has kind of come together and has been a really good idea. We certainly appreciate the sentiment here from the chat. This is not easy to get up and do week after week after week. We want to be able to, deliver you the best content possible. We want to be, the most trusted podcast out there, maybe relative to what our actual budget is. That probably would be the best way to put it. So, but we're excited about the changes. I think we're working our way towards the finish. We're gonna have a banger of a season review with the Crap on a Cracker team, with the team of the season, and and we'll finish it off in style. But I think getting a chance and doing it monthly will maybe allow us to do this in the summer months, where we could maybe catch up on transfers, catch up on Italian national teams. So, and get caught up on maybe some of the things that we don't touch on, and just kind of stay consistent and keep putting something out there. Going to be harder to get to 400 doing it this way. Another 10 years. Some of the more milestone podcasts, but everything was on the table. Even scrapping Serie A sit down was on the table, but we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to walk away from this community. So monthly makes the most sense. And we're on episode 305. We're going to be looking forward to episode 310. That'll be our next milestone.
that's pretty much it. Although I think 310s at the end of the season, or it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe 325 or something like that. We could do something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, nonetheless. So that's our, that's what our plans are here. Deep dives into new coaching hires over the next season. Yeah, we could do that. We could, I've seen, and I'll reference, a different sport, but collegefootballnews.com, they'll review how the first year head coaches did, and whether they've got something to build on, or if they're finding themselves right in the hot seat and things like that, so those are things that we can do, and just say, hey, this manager's taken over this club. What have we seen? Okay, maybe the results aren't there, but the play is there, and they just got to win some games. Or no, this is a total mess, and it's going to have to. The club's going to have to start over. So things like that. But yeah, it'll be great, and I think we're super excited about. We're super excited about the change, and I think that we're going to be able to bring a lot of energy, to a more monthly format. So. And appreciate the understanding from everybody in the chat and from all you, the listeners. And you know what? You don't have a choice. So, because this is how we're going to do it going forward.
We're still weekly until the end of the season. So
yes, we are.
Relax. We're still
yes, we are. So we're digging in. We're digging in, and we're going to ride this. We're going to ride this season out. So there will be a season 9. It'll be a monthly format. So.
Right.
Thank you all in advance for your understanding, and we look forward to continue to give you great content. So, well, Richard, a great game that had some. Let's start first with a great game that had some Champions League placing implications, and was a derby, the Derby della Sole, or is it Derby della Sud? I heard it said the announcer said it was Derby della Sole.
It's both. So it's Derby della Sud, Derby della Sole. It's one other one. I forgot the other one is. But there's many names for it.
They don't like each other. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So why don't we take it away and get started and go in that direction? At the Diego Armando Maradona, there was Napoli and Roma.
All right. Let me get. There we go. Get the teams on the board there.
This is how burned out we are. We didn't even discuss who was narrating what game.
Yeah. Who played? No. Yeah, so Napoli hosting Roma, Derby della Sud, Derby della Sole, whatever you want to call it. It's two southern teams that do not like each other very much, or also known as Derby della Gianni from Calcio guys, fans of both teams here. But starting off with the home team, Napoli, starting 11, you had Meret in goal, back 4 of Oliveira, Juan Jesus, Rahmani, and Di Lorenzo. Midfield 3 of Cajuste, Labotka, and Anguissa, with Avarciele, Osimhen, and Politano up top. For the most part, a fairly standard lineup here for Calzone's men, Frank. Thoughts on Napoli starting 11 in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a team that's that's built to put pressure on Roma. The attack is the attack is outstanding. It's the same questions with Napoli week in and week out. The defense is patchwork at best, has been all season long. And with Roma, having some newfound joy in their attack. Although lately the goals have maybe been a little bit harder to come by for them. It's they've got 2 goals against Udinese. Were beaten 3-1 by Bologna. They scored 2 against Milan in the return leg in the Europa League. But other than that, it was the goal part of it was really tough sledding. But the Napoli defense might have been coming at the right time for them. Yeah, but this was a Napoli team that was going to, that's fighting like hell to try to get into the top 5, and this is a huge game for them coming in.
This is also a big game for Roma, obviously, big implications. I mean, we're looking at more than likely, or pretty much guaranteed at this point, 5 Champions League teams from Serie A, maybe 6, depending how Europa League and Conference League go. But Roma need to make sure they do everything they can to try at least, get in that 4th spot, make it comfortable for themselves. Coming out in goal, you had Svilar, the ever-present brick in the wall. That's back there. Back 4, you went with Spinazzola, Indica. Good to see him back on the pitch. Mancini and Christensen. Midfield 3 of Pellegrini, Cristante, and Bove, with El Shaarawy, Azmoun, and Dybala up top. Thoughts on Roma's lineup? A little different than what is the standard, I guess. But De Rossi have to make some changes. Based on how life comes at him at times. Thoughts on the way Roma came on this game?
I think that when you look at how they're set up in the midfield, it's clear that they were going to try to figure out how they can cut out passing lanes. The inclusion of Bove, certainly helps that. He kind of works more box to box. You got Cristante who's trying to protect the two center backs, and he's not really in there to man mark anybody, but he's making sure supply doesn't get into Osimhen. So you kind of saw where the counterattacking could take place, and it was going to be setting up to just kind of, all right, they set up based on how they thought Napoli were going to come out, and they're finding the spots where they might be able to counter and get at them. And I thought it was a pretty shrewd selection by Daniele De Rossi.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was. You never know how these things are going to pan out, especially when you got a guy like Asmun up top, trying to go a little bit smaller lineup against a defense like Napoli. But an entertaining game, to say the least. Certainly of the two derbies this weekend, the big derbies, this was the most entertaining of the two. No doubt about it. Both teams really having lots of opportunities in the first half, in particular, both in the entire game, really taking their chances. You saw early on, Osimhen's pace was doing wonders for Napoli. Him and Brasileira really combining well, and luckily for Roma, they got a goalkeeper, Svilar, who. Really, since De Rossi's taken over, he's really taken his opportunity and has really been shining really, really bright. Yeah. And it's not like we've talked about this before the show. Is like this defense is a lot stronger now than it was under Mourinho. I think a lot of it has to do with Svilar in goal because he's a common influence back there, and in the past with Rui Patricio, you never know what you're going to get with him. And try as you might play defensive, you make one mistake, it's probably going to be a goal. And I think now the defense and the midfield, the entire Roma team, when they do make those mistakes, they have that confidence that Svilar is back there. He's going to make a save and bail them out and gives them an opportunity to stay in the game and get that winner or tying goal in a game. Svilar obviously came up big in the first half, and Murat did it too because he was busy as well. But with thoughts on how the first half really kind of shaped up there, 0-0 at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a dominant first half from Napoli, relatively speaking, because I would tell you that the possession was slightly tilted towards Napoli. They certainly had the more dangerous chances. Svilar was called out to make some pretty important saves in the first half. They had the Osimhen chance in the 30th minute. Roma still presented the danger on the counter. They just didn't get quality ball to break the Napoli defense. And I don't think I didn't find it to be anything Napoli did really well to thwart them. I just think I think it was more technical error on Roma's part, to produce anything dangerous in the first half. But the way Roma set up, I mean, the majority of the time you see Napoli going around them, because they were struggling to play through them. I mean, the couple of times they did play through them and they were able to counter, it was encountering situations where they caught Ndika and Mancini in some high positions. You saw Osimhen getting through. I believe it was Ndika who slipped. Crazy that he's back out on the pitch after what happened to him already.
I know.
By the way, and then the other one was Anguissa going through. Those were the two moments. And in both of those moments, I think Roma countered, and when they countered, their line was high and they got caught. And that's where you had Anguissa and you had Osimhen going through. Those should have been 2 goals right there for Napoli. But other than that, Napoli did a nice job of producing chances when they were forced to play around them. And I mean, when you got guys like Politano and Claudicelli, you're going to be comfortable playing around people. And that's how Napoli approached it in the first half. Really should have been up at least 2-0 at halftime. Roma got out of there 0-0 and had to feel like they were very, very lucky to do so.
Yeah, and you're always going to be kicking yourself when you do feel like you're all over the opponent and you should be up a goal or two, and you don't convert, because what always happens, the tide will turn like that. And what we saw early second half, Roma finally getting the ball in the box, and guy goes down, penalty. Paulo Dybala steps up, slots it away very cool and calmly there, past Murat. And just like that, Roma are up 1-0 after everything that Napoli did that I thought they were in cruise control in the game. They go down 1-0, And then you see a substitution. El Shaarawy goes out. Angelino comes in, a little bit another more defensive help there for De Rossi's men. And so you're thinking, okay, well, it's going to be more difficult now. Napoli maybe had a lot more chances in that first half, but chances will be coming by the wayside. We thought. Didn't necessarily pan out that way. It seemed like the goals exploded in the second half. Didn't take long for Napoli to get back into this. You saw a lot of pushing up from Napoli, in particular Oliveira. Matheus Oliveira gets into the box, gets an opportunity, takes a shot. I know the Lega Serie A's Twitter page tried to say this is one of the goals of the week, but let's be honest, the shot got deflected off of Christensen. Nice looping ball over the keeper, and nothing Svilar could have done about that. Opportunistic, and Oliveira took control of that. Goal wouldn't happen if he didn't take a shot, so kudos to Napoli there. 1-1. It seemed to quiet the emotions there a little bit, but I think it was a timely goal because it was fairly quick, fairly short after that goal that Roma had scored. So I think that was good for Calzone's men to say, okay, let's get back in the game, get back at level, and try to get back on the offensive side. Did you feel that way when that equalizing goal came in there from Oliveira?
I did, and I've got 6 goals that were better than that Oliveira goal. Sorry, Lega Serie A.
Every other goal was better than that.
At least 6. I should say at least 6. The ones I put stars next to, those 6. So and I don't know if some of this was okay. So now you've got Angelino coming in for El Shaarawy, and you've got Angelino and you've got Spinazzola both, I guess, on the left. And I just part of it was I was trying to figure out what Roma was doing formationally. Maybe Vincent knows because he's a Roma fan, but trying to figure out what the hell they were doing formationally. And I think as a result, I think the Roma players were trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing formationally. It just kind of was, you had 2 left wing backs in the game. And then how was that? Was one of them supposed to be part of a back 3? There was like a little, so to me, there was like a little, I was confused with that. I don't know what you thought.
Same.
Yeah. So it was just a strange substitution. It was like he was going into Mourinho mode, but he was bringing on, another wing back. And then meanwhile, you still got Spinazzola in the game. You've got Huijsen sitting there on the bench. If you really wanted to go to a back 3 and you wanted to pull El Shaarawy, I don't understand why you didn't go to that route. But it to me, it's what it is. Napoli took advantage and made it 1-1.
Yeah, and it's confusing too if you look at substitutions that were made after that. Bringing in Renato Sanchez for Bove, it's kind of a like for like. Good to see Renato Sanchez finally getting some minutes, after long spells without under Mourinho. Got to see Abraham come in for Azmoun. That made sense. Need to get a little striker in there so you can get a goal there. But you look at Calzone's substitutions, and they went for the more offensive ones. They obviously brought Traore in for Cajuste, and then you had Ngonge for Politano. And so it's a more attack-minded Napoli trying to get a goal. They felt in the first half they should have had a couple goals, and that's their way of kind of ramping things back up and trying to get control of the game. But Roma's defense, they withstood, and they had some chances of their own going the other end. But as time was ticking, this looked like this game was going to be a 1-1 game. Didn't look like we were going to see maybe any of the goals. As open as it felt, we weren't getting those goals. But it wasn't until the 84th minute where I thought Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen did really well together. As good as Roma's defense were, they were pretty much doing what they wanted at will. It was hard to stop them. And you see Kvaratskhelia going into the box, really trying to just go through guys. He goes down, and when you're watching it live, you're thinking he just dove, and you see Osimhen trying to pick him up. They go to VAR and check it, and sure enough, it's a foul. It's a clear penalty there. And so Osimhen steps up, converts it 2-1. You're like, okay, game's over. There's no way Roma's going to score now because if they hadn't scored yet, they weren't going to get a goal. But 2-1 at that point, I think, crucial play. And against Kvaratskhelia, it's their stars that kind of setting the tone there. And so you thought it was a good penalty, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it was fair. Mm-hmm. I think they got it right. They got it right. They went to the review. It was good use of VAR.
Yeah. Vincent says, I don't understand why we sometimes put Angelino and Spinazzola at the same time. I think Angelino played as a left wing. It doesn't make sense.
That even made it worse. Yeah.
They both have qualities, and I've seen teams do this where they got two guys who are serviceable on the left-hand side. They're like, let's just go ahead and put a double stack in there. But, it gets confusing, especially if you don't do that often. You lose whose responsibility is to do defensive work, who's offensive work. Do they
Sure.
switch it up? It's confusing, and so maybe that's what kind of led to the penalty that ended up happening, is because all the confusion in the box, and eventually you're just trying to take hacks at how about Sheila not letting him shoot, and then that happened. So 2-1 at that point. Roma are trying to get back in the game. Time is ticking away. Doesn't look like they're going to get a goal in this one, but lo and behold, a set piece. Ball bounces around. Abraham gets a header on it, puts it in the goal. Everyone's shouting for offsides, and when you're watching, it looks like it's offsides, but if you pay close attention, back door, and I forget who was back door or front door, he kept him on. It was the delayed push out by the defender, kept Abraham on side. Good goal. Good to see him, back on the score sheet. I know he scored a couple weeks ago. So 2-2. Derby della Sole, I would argue, as good as Napoli were in this game in terms of possession and chances created, I think a draw is a fair result, because I think Roma played well defensively. They bent but didn't break. It's an old adage, but it's true. And they were opportunistic. They got the late goal there. They earned a penalty earlier in the game. I think a 2-2 scoreline is a fair result in this. What do you think?
I think Napoli are going to kick themselves for not winning this game.
Well, sure, for sure.
They had the quality. They had the quality chances. They had the lead twice. They had opportunity. Yeah. So, so I think that's if you're going to give three, if you're going to just judge the better performing team, to me it would have been Napoli. But Roma found the resources to win the game, and it's Napoli's another one of these teams that just historically have been so bad at defending corners. And that reared its ugly head here. I mean, it was an Ndika who redirected the ball in the direction of Abraham. So Ndika coming back after that health scare against Udinese, and then ping him and then getting the assist that rescues a point for Roma, and keeps their top 5 hopes intact. And it probably ends Napoli's any chance Napoli has of returning to the Champions League next season. It's just I don't think it's going to happen for them now. So that's a lot of points to make up. I believe they're 9 back with 4 to play. So it's not looking good. It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good at all. Obviously, for me, I'm curious your thoughts. For me, Svilar probably the man of the match. 7 saves in this game. Napoli, like you said, they're going to kick themselves because they had 22 big chances missed in this game. I mean, that's nothing to scoff about. They had their chances. They couldn't put it away. And if anything, De Rossi can look at this game and say that we need to improve upon, it's the amount of balls lost. They lost 11 balls in this game, which is a lot. I mean, that's 10 more at least than Napoli had. They got to do better. They can't give the ball away, even if they play. It's a good lesson learned ahead of going against Leverkusen, who's a team who's very similar in terms of how they like to play and in terms of possession stuff as Napoli. So get your kinks out of the way now and prepare for a hell of a game against Leverkusen. Legs, I should say, 2 legs. But Svilar, man of the match for me. What were your thoughts on who you thought was the best player in the game?
Yeah, it has to be Svilar. He made some critical saves. He literally rescued the point. For Roma, or kept him in it and gave him an opportunity. Yeah. Mourinho needs to be put in jail for keeping Svilar on the bench. I mean, here's the thing about Mourinho. Mourinho wants the guys who've been there. That's who he plays. Yeah. It's a rarity for him to put a kid in there or to put a younger guy or a guy who doesn't have the experience. It's how he's been wherever he's gone. The guys that have been around the block and have been through the battles are the ones that he trusts the most. And that's a sword that he's had to fall on. It's, not often you see him putting complete faith in a young player and a teenager or anything like that. So until it's too late where he needs to save his job, that's when you see it. Put in jail. I mean, but no, this shouldn't surprise anybody that this is how this turns out, that, you go with the guy that, and Rui Patricio he's had a good career. He just hasn't been good the last couple of seasons. And, we talk about this, there's this fascinating, there's always this debate, because I got into this with some people about Milan, and when they were saying that during the middle of the season, Leao is struggling for form, you should bench him. I say, you don't bench Rafael Leao. Okay. That's a player that you got to let him keep playing and let him get his form back. Okay. To get his form back. A goalkeeper who's giving up, it's a little easier to pull a plug on a goalkeeper. There's maybe a few goalkeepers you don't do that with. You don't do that with Mike Maignan. Okay, you don't do that with Jan Oblak over at Atletico Madrid. I'm trying to think other goalkeepers in the world, in the space of world football that you wouldn't do that with. So, you don't like you probably don't like this guy, but Gregor Kurbel is another guy you probably don't do that to. So, when you're talking about goalkeepers from Borussia Dortmund, you're a Schalke guy. But we've seen when Napoli had Merit and Ospina. I mean, they always went with the guy. They always went with the hot hand, and when the hot hand started cooling off, the other guy went in. So, I think that there's the stubbornness to stick with the experienced players with Mourinho is just it's a global theme for him, and it's not just with the failure to not recognize that Svilar was a better goalkeeper than Patricio.
Yeah, no, for sure. So 2-2 and a result there. Share the points there, and good for Roma considering the opponent and how the kind of game was shaping up. But end of the day, they'll take that point, and that helps them in their bid to try to secure that top 5 spot, Champions League spot. And like you said, it pretty much puts an end to Napoli's thoughts of getting Champions League. Not that we thought they were going to get there; they were close. But yeah, who knows? And don't look now, Lazio's on the back end, but we'll get to Lazio later. So.
Yeah, we'll get to them here. We'll get to they're making a furious charge here for 5th here. As we close things out. Oh God, do we have to talk about Juventus and Milan?
We can touch base on that, I guess. They didn't get the memo to score goals like the other derby.
Napoli had one less shot than Juventus and Milan combined. One less shot against Roma than Juventus and Milan had combined against each other. All right, so and I think Anthony already mentioned this. This is a game of two teams already on vacation, and they played accordingly. But we'll talk about the game anyway. I think that Juve's safe for a Champions League place. They're 8 clear of 6th. I know that Atalanta have a game in hand. So, but Szczesny, Gatti, Brema, and Danilo across the back. Kostic and Weah as the wingbacks. Cambiaso, Locatelli, Rabiot in midfield. Yildiz and Dusan Vlahovic up front. Richard, thoughts? Surprised Chiesa didn't play this game from the start?
No, not really. I think because Kenan Yildiz is a good player when he comes in. So I think you're fine with other players starting the game. And so the fact that Chiesa didn't start this, no, I saw this as bringing him off the bench and using his pace and his skill set when the players are tired for Milan. It's a good game plan to use. It's worked in the bigger games, and so no, I wasn't really surprised overall. I was probably more surprised about the way Cambiaso stack, even though Cambiaso can be used as a midfield. I felt at least that Cambiaso has been better suited on the right wing side. Weah's done well there, but both doing. It's kind of like we just talked about the Napoli game with two guys, with the Roma players, Spinazzola and Angelino. Same situation there, though this is even a little more different because they're both in the midfield here. But it ultimately worked out in terms of creating chances, but not how I would have done it. But I'm not Allegri, of course, and not many people are.
Exactly. Milan counter. They give Sportiello a start. They rest Maignan. They go across the back with Musa deputizing at right back. Gabi and Chow were the center backs. Florenzi getting the start at left back. Reinders and Adli in a double pivot with Loftus-Cheek in front of them, flanked by Leao and Pulisic with Giroud up front. So your front four, and then maybe your double pivot doesn't change, but a complete shuffling of the defense for Milan.
Yeah, I mean, you knew things were going to happen after the derby. A lot of red cards in that game. Never like to see Musa playing right back. It's always dangerous. Not as skillful as he is, he's not a right back, and it's shown this season when he's played right back. So that was always worrying. Gabia back there is comforting. Florenzi's been okay, but Thiaw is the unknown in this situation because he's had such a horrible year. How would he do in this? You felt if there was an opportunity for somebody, looking at coming into this game, it would be Vlahovic feasting on a guy like Thiaw, as poor a season as he's had. And then, looking at the rest of the lineup, the rest of the lineup is fairly standard, I think, but there's always the defense, plus the goalie we've seen in Sportiello when he's made his appearances this season. Not necessarily been the greatest. Some games he's played well, other games he's played really bad. And it seems to be the standard for Milan backups over the last, 5-10 years. in terms of the backups. So yeah, it was always gonna be interesting. I thought from the get-go that advantage have to be Juventus, at least on the attacking prowess, and would Milan's midfield and attack do enough to kind of counterbalance that? Because when you look at that back five for Milan, including the goalkeeper, it's susceptible to goals. It's susceptible to errors and mistakes, and so could Juve take advantage of that? That was the first thing that I thought when I saw the two lineups.
Yep, for sure. Milan had more of the possession in the first half. Juve carved out the more dangerous chances and then flip it in the second half. I mean, Juve dominated the second half, and couldn't come up with a goal. And then they made some substitutions to just continue to try to put things on the front foot. And I think, do you think that the substitutions, I mean, Allegri doesn't normally make aggressive substitutions like this in a 0-0 game. But when you look at it, when you look at the moves that he made here, Milic coming on for Vlahovic makes sense. Chiesa for Kostic. McKennie coming in, and then you had Miretti coming in. So they kind of shuffled this around where they could try to get some higher width with Chiesa than they had with Kostic. Do you see the aggression being as a result of Milan having played with a makeshift back four and backup goalkeeper? Trying to take advantage of that?
I think so. I think it's Allegri noticing that there is a weakened opponent in front of you, and you need to take advantage of them, and you got to go after them, force them to make mistakes. It's kind of like what I just said. Is like this. Everyone in that back four has been prone this season to make huge errors, costly errors. And so if you are Allegri and Juventus, you got to attack it and see if you can get them to make those kind of mistakes. And I think to the credit of Milan, their center backs really came up huge in this game. Sportiello came up huge in this game. And I don't think Allegri really expected that. And so we've seen some of those aggressive substitutions. He hoped that he could really insert them and make them kind of feel uncomfortable back there and make the unforced error. And it didn't happen, unfortunately, for Juventus. But that's what I think Allegri was doing in that situation, really trying to go after the blood in the water, and didn't work out this time.
Yep, didn't work out this time. So Milan held on for dear life. I'm with you, Anthony. Sportiello was the man of the match here with 7 saves. So another theme of goalkeepers coming up big here in derbies. It was an uninspiring display from Milan. I think it was just kind of like, the wind's out of your sails after you lose a derby, and then you lose a derby where the opponent goes on and clinches the title in front of you. So it'd be interesting to see what Milan does with these last 4 games. I don't think they do much. I mean, they're sitting 13 points. I mean, I know that Atalanta have a game in hand, but it's essentially the best Atalanta can do is 72. Milan just need to collect 3 points from the last 4 games to secure their Champions League place. I think they're going to stumble to get there. They're not going to, it's not going to be altogether terribly inspiring when you see it. So when we take a look at, I'm just trying to take a peek here at the game coming up. So there's just 2 Serie A games on Saturday. But then on Sunday, Milan are hosting Genoa, and Genoa is another team that, they've pretty much got everything they've played for. They've got survival. Yeah. So you're going to see another.
They're over 40 points. They're survived.
Yeah, you're going to see another sleepwalking kind of game, really. But I would expect Milan go ahead and get the 3 points and just, lock up that Champions League place and then put it on cruise control for the rest of the season is the way I see it going down.
This Milan-Juve game wasn't quite West Germany, Austria in the World Cup or whatever it was a few years ago in the group stages, or in the 80s it was. But it felt like that. It felt like 2 teams who hey, let's just get a draw. We're not going to lose any plays. No one's going to catch us. Let's just keep second and third. We're comfortably in Champions League. Let's just move on. It's going to be interesting. I think both teams will struggle going down the stretch. I think if they get any good results, it's because they're trying to play out for their managers, knowing that their managers are not going to be there next year. And particularly Milan, I think it's all about certainty that Pioli's gone. And so if the players do really love Pioli, as we've heard so much in the past, you imagine they're going to at least want to go out on a good and at least keep them with the Champions League spot. So you can imagine both Juve and Milan just barely getting enough points there, just to stay relevant, keep the standard going, and be in a comfortable Champions League spot. Doesn't really matter where at this point where you finish. Fans won't like it, obviously, but I think that's what that makes the most sense in terms of how the seasons are going to shape up for both Juve and Milan. And so, and I think they're both easily, comfortably in Champions League for next year.
Yep. Yep, agreed. So, yeah, nothing damaging about this day for and it's two teams that don't want to play for their manager anymore. I think that's what Vincent said. So, so we'll have to see what happens. With the fallout with all of that. Just kind of touching on Milan a little bit. Starting to read everybody's opinions about who Milan might go after, who they'll sign, who they'll how they'll reinforce, and just kind of talking about the backroom staff and stuff like that. And I gave another editorial on the Serie A Sit Down Twitter.
Okay.
I'm going to try to pull this up and read it to you all.
All right.
And then we'll.
I missed it.
You did? Okay.
I did.
If it usually I just tweeted it says from at FTC_21, so that people can see what I'm. All right. So. I'm seeing a lot of armchair directors of football telling you how Milan will strengthen / who they'll get / who they should get or should have gotten. They'll also and some of this is because of the performance of some players that Milan could have gotten, and ruining the Marcus Thuram getting away, some of these other guys. And I get the temptation to look ahead to next season with really nothing to play for now. But I'm going to let's look at the front office's performance last summer. They assembled a very talented squad, apart from bringing in a ball. I think they don't have a ball-winning central midfielder. Okay? They're trying to make one out of Adli. It's kind of working. Benacer just has not been at his best this season, and Reinders is more of the technician through the midfield that you're trying to link the midfield and the strikers. So injuries hampered Milan. They were one goal away from qualifying from the Champions League group stage and went out to two semifinalists who will play tomorrow, by the way. And they're finishing second to an Inter that's only been bested by 2013-2014 Juve in 95 years. It's a trophyless season, I understand. But look where Milan is now versus the throw shit on the wall and see what sticks banter era. I encourage everyone to let them cook and stop reposting. Actually, I skipped a paragraph. The addition of Zlatan and his role, his presence, and football knowledge will only be a plus in recruitment of players. I have no reason to not trust Zlatan and Moncada at this point. I encourage everyone to let them cook and stop reposting every rumor you see with a take. 95% of what's floated out there doesn't happen. I want trophies too, but I also want a long, sustainable project. And I think deep down to the core, the Milan supporters really want that. I mean, the guys that are crying for Conte there are people that are want to just spend irresponsible money. They're looking for the quick fix without realizing that, this is what gets teams in trouble and sets them back for many years. Milan's going in a very positive direction. Maybe they're not winning trophies at the pace that all Milan fans would like. All right. But I think there's a contingent of Milan fans who are getting a little bit impatient. I mean, the Pioli out thing is one thing, but now players that that they let go on loan who are performing well, and, Thuram and some of these other guys, trust this process, because Milan's in a much healthier state now than they were, even 3 years ago.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's all a slow process. If you look at the numbers side of things, you see Milan's doing really great work. The Cardinale group are doing a great work. I'd love to see Swiss Ramble come out with something again that deep dives into Italian football and how each of the teams are doing, because I guarantee you Milan are toward the top end in terms of how teams are making profits and being sustainable versus other teams who are just blowing their wad and really barely keeping their head above water, if at all, even some of the big teams. And so, you have to think long term in this thing. Will Moneyball work? To be determined. I think this year despite all the naysayers, I think it did work well, because you look at all the players they signed and how many goals they scored. And I forget if it was Lisi or who it was earlier in the season that mentioned how many goals they scored, and it was a ridiculous number. At that point, it was like 48, and this was like maybe mid-season. So, it worked. Did it get you a Champions a scudetto? No. But again, you went against an historic Inter with a dominant team from front to back. It's hard to keep pace with any of that team. Last year, you had a Napoli team was also a very historic team as well.
Yep.
So it just happens some of these times, where a team goes on these tears. There's nothing you can do about it. You can have a great season, and you look at it with thick eyeglasses, and you say, "Oh man, we got obliterated. We sucked this year." You take a step back. Team's still in second place, and is it the best quality necessarily all the time? No, but are they getting results? Yeah. Do they have some star players? Absolutely. Do they have building blocks? For sure. So, yeah, just give some time. It's hard.
Yep, for sure. Let's talk about Juve. Because we kind of
have to?
it's been. Well,
Just kidding.
I think this time we should. I mean, we've always kind of glossed over them, week after week, because it has been that quiet, piece together results. We kind of thought they were going to end up. I didn't. I thought they'd finish fifth, but fifth gets you in the Champions League. So I've got them top five. But this is
We didn't know that.
Right. So they're at a crossroads too.
Yeah.
And part of this is, I think that, they've got some recruitment where they're trying to bring in some more attacking players, in hopes that they'll be able to play a more attractive game and try to maybe, with this theme of freshening brands here, Juve's brand really needs a facelift. I mean, with the way that they've played and gotten results, I mean, yeah, if you like having your teeth pulled, sure, then Juve's for you. But do they have the players to play in a more entertaining way if they brought a manager in that wanted to play that way? I think that you look at Chiesa and say yes. I think that you look at Yildiz and see the potential with him and say yes. I think you look at Miretti and you say yes. But is that enough? Vlahovic can be your goal scorer. Certainly can be your goal scorer. But is that enough? I feel like they need to, and we've had this conversation for years about Juventus all of a sudden. They need to diversify their midfield.
Yeah.
Okay? It can't just be three of the same guy. Yeah. And I think that would probably bring a little bit, and then you bring a player in there with some creativity. I tell you what, he's going to Inter by all accounts, but Zielinski would, as a 10 behind Vlahovic, I think would be an amazing fit. As an example,
Sule might be a good one as well. He is a player there. I like, and I said this all season long. I do like all the pieces that Juventus have in the attacking sense and even in the defensive phase. It's that midfield that's always been the question mark, and obviously this year, the three similar pieces being Rabiot, McKennie, and Locatelli. They've had to figure things out. Rabiot's he's just continuing on his form that he's had since. What was it, 2018 or something like that? Maybe not that long, but he's had a long run since the World Cup, been on this hot streak. McKennie has been really there. He's stepped up the big time this year, really became the playmaker for them and scoring goals as well, while being his box-to-box presence. Locatelli's done well during the season as well. But like you said, they're all the same pieces. And to diversify, to have a ball-winning midfielder, to have a playmaker, to have a guy who can link the defense to the attack. You need all those different pieces.
Yeah.
You can't just have the same pieces doing all different jobs. It's not going to work out. And so if you have brought in a manager who's playing more attacking style, yes, I think this team could certainly play that. For sure the attack. They got some really great pieces in the attack right now. It's just that midfield they're going to have to spend some money or bring in some players that'll fit that mold better. These guys who are in there now are okay. They've played above their quality, but you need to have more diversification, as you said. And so it's funny because I think Juventus fans and even the Juventus brass are in this mindset where, like, on one hand, we want to play attractive football, be the Barcelonas or whatever, name a team that you think is attractive, Napoli, and play like them. And then the other hand, they don't want to take the time to develop and build that team and go through the growing pains of that. So they rather continue doing what they were doing and just get wins and getting trophies. And it's like, which one do you choose? They tried that a couple years ago with Pirlo, remember? They were starting to play a more attractive style of football, but then everybody bitch and complained that, we can't get any wins now. We're losing to teams that we shouldn't be losing to. We're not going to win a title. And then, we blow it up and go back to Allegri. And so that's what we're back at it again. Can the brass and the fans sustain? You're not going to... It's very few times you're going to have someone come in who plays attractive football from the get-go and get you what you want to have and be sustainable long-term. Maybe a Conte can come in and do something, but you're going to have some growing pains, especially if you play a dinosaur-type system that Allegri plays and it's been drilled into the players for years now. Get them out of that. It's going to have some growing pains, and you have to be able to withstand that, and that's the question you're going to have to ask yourself. am I willing to let some poor form go for a few months, and eventually have this beautiful product, or do I just keep winning the way we've done it and stay relevant in the scudetto race? Decide.
Yep.
Can you give up one season?
Yep.
That's the ask themselves. But they have the talent. I like the players that Juventus have right now.
Yeah, it's if you go to a more attack oriented and that sort of, you might have to sweat out some bad results until it kind of all starts to flow. I mean, it's just common sense. That's what's going to happen more often than somebody just coming in and making an impact, and you're beating the brakes off of everybody over the first 6 to 10 games of the season. So,
yeah,
they've obviously got very good defenders. They've got veteran players back there. It's trying to as we said, diversify that midfield a little bit and get that attack. And I think that'll help go a long way to making that attack more creative. And it just to the point, Koopmeiners would be another great addition. To Juve with the season. Consider the season that he's having over there at Atalanta. So, two teams that are going to qualify for the Champions League, but have very, very interesting summers ahead of them. So, gonna be fun to see how it all unfolds with them. So, Richard, should we break down the rest of match week 34 there?
Yeah, I guess why not? Why not? Let's start things off with Frosinone and Salernitana. The home team would get goals through Sule. We just talked about Sule, Juventus product, in the 10th minute through a penalty. Brescianini, the 25th minute, 2-0 in the first half there, and then Zortea in the 85th minute, 3-0. Confirmed Salernitana is back in Serie B after this result. Well, to be determined with Frosinone, but Salernitana, we were all aware this is going to happen. It's just a matter of fact of when the official date would be, and we found out this weekend. It was this past Friday, so good luck next year. Moving on to Saturday, you had Lecce and Monza. And this one, obviously Monza have been a team very much on vacation mode so far the last couple of weeks. Lecce are still not guaranteed safety yet, so they played like they wanted to get some goals in this one, and they started off very well. Majority of the opportunities did come from Lecce. Monza had some opportunities as well, but you finally got a breakthrough, it seemed like, in stoppage time. Kristovic, goal of the week candidate there, a banger there from distance off the volley. Looks like they won the game. Hey, it's great. Hey. And then all of a sudden, Monza, literally off the kickoff, kicks it into the box. Handball by the dumbass defender. Why? What is he doing? Gets a penalty. Pessina steps up, scores a goal. 1-1. That close to being secure for the season. And then, they got to maybe wait another week maybe to secure that. But 1-1. Lecce just kicked themselves. You got a feel for them there. We talked about this team earlier. Lazio moving up, getting back to discussion about Europe here. They played a Hellas Verona team. It's always going to be a difficult game there, but eventually Tudor's men finally broke down his old team and is through a goal. Matteo Saccani, nice finish, short side on the keeper in the 72nd minute. Lazio get by 1-0, good victory. I think Kamada had a good game in this one as well. But Lazio win 1-0 there. Moving on to Sunday. The champions, how would they do? We talked about 2 goalkeepers into this game with 17 shutouts each. We said that one of these two is probably going to continue getting shutouts, and the other one probably wasn't. Well, it came to fruition in this game. Sommer wins that duel 2-0. Inter 2 goals by Hakan Çalhanoğlu. First goal was a goal of the week candidate. Nice volley, side volley there to get it past the keeper, and then step up 5 minutes later really puts the exclamation mark on the victory with a penalty. Well taken by Hakan Çalhanoğlu. Perfect on the season thus far. Worth noting that Tameze did pick up a red card in the 49th minute, and so that kind of helped things, but Inter were always going to win this game. Torino played stingy, but they're relentless. They got such good players there. The champions continue to move on. One of the surprises of the weekend, I would say, you had a new manager, Cannavaro, leading Udinese, and Udinese would start out with the lead. They get a goal through Pacero in stoppage time in the first half. 1-0. Really surprising a lot of people. Bologna, they're not. They trying to confirm Champions League spot. They want to have their manager come back next year. I know a lot of Juventini are talking about Motta coming to Juventus next year, but Saputo is trying to convince Thiago Motta to stay. The players want him to stay, at least the ones that are staying on the team. But they can't fight for it. You would see a red card by Bukema, get the second yellow card. Puts his team down, not the way you want to try to help your team out in terms of trying to come back in this game, but Bologna, they kept fighting back as you'd expect. And goal of the week candidate, Salamakers. Oh, what a free kick. Who saw that coming from distance, top off the post and up the crossbar and in. 1-1. They nearly got a winner late in the game there, but Bologna and Udinese share points there. Udinese still battling in relegation there. Didn't help themselves out. A team who is pretty much securing their Champions League spot, almost. Atalanta, they played Empoli. They won 2-0 this game. You had a penalty from Pasalic in the 42nd minute, and then Adama Lukman with a goal of the week candidate, really slaloming through players and putting a nice finish away from distance. Atalanta went 2-0 in that game. And then the game to kind of close the Sunday out, at least I should say. Fiorentina Sassuolo. Fiorentina obviously is still on a high of getting to the Conference League semifinals. And so what better way to do it than score some goals? A team that's been struggling to score goals as of late really open up on Sassuolo, and why not? You're playing a fun, bad team like Sassuolo, or really these days they're all bad because they're in a relegation fight. They got blown up. Sotil got a goal in the 17th minute. Martinez Cuarta, a header in the 54th minute off a set piece. Nico Gonzalez gets a touch the ball in the 58th and also got a second in the 66th. And then Anthony Barak as well got a goal in there. 5-1. Thorsvet had a nice goal in the 57th, but all for naught. Fiorentina completely trounced Sassuolo. And then the last game, which was played yesterday, Genoa hosting Cagliari. Genoa all but confirmed they're staying in the league with a resounding victory of a difficult Cagliari team, 3-0. Thorsby, nice goal in the 17th minute. Frendrup in the 27th minute, and then Goodmanson in the 63rd. Nice play run by him that eventually get the ball back and scored to pass the keeper. 3-0. Genoa won. Where would you like to start?
I wanted to say that I thought I saw Ivan Juric is going to be stepping down at Torino at the end of the season. I don't know if that's true or if that's still,
I heard something like that too.
If that's still ongoing, would be a crazy move by Torino.
Yeah.
He's really kept that afloat. He's made them competitive. They've recruited good players. And I think
defensively
a manager
sound.
like that, yeah, very defensively sound side. Maybe they certainly might have more ambitions than where they are. I mean, they're defensively sound, sure, but they also don't score. 31 goals in 34 matches. I mean, it's they're sitting right there on 10th. It seems like they've been, and that's the running joke about them. They seem to finish 10th every year. So that's an interesting news piece to keep an eye on. The other thing, Salernitana was just underachieving, and I think you also now have to fear for Sassuolo at this point. And I think the interesting thing with Sassuolo is that going down, if they go down, they have some very, they need to win out, and then they're still going to need some help. They have some pretty enticing players there.
If those players stay, they're sure to come back up, but they're going to get
no chance.
The Vulture's going to come. There's no chance they're going to stay to keep this player.
Loriente is going to be gone.
Yeah.
Torstvedt's going to be gone. Berardi's loyalty is going to be tested.
Yeah.
Pinamonti is going to want to play in Serie A.
Concilio probably stay if he plays.
Concilio will probably stay. Ehrlich will probably stay. Ehrlich is terrible. Wherever Ehrlich is gone, teams suck.
Thorsvet, he's going to be gone.
Yeah. So, Thorsvet is definitely gone. So there's some appeal to these Sassuolo guys. And there's a couple of Salernitana guys, but there's definitely more players on Sassuolo that the Vultures are going to come and pick at the carcass for sure.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that at the bottom. You got Cannavaro's first game. He's able to scratch out a point for Udinese. They're still alive and well in this thing. Still gonna need a little bit of work. I don't think Frosinone and Empoli are totally out of the weeds yet. If I had to make a pick now, I would probably say because Empoli struggles so much to score that they're in big trouble. And that I think that if there's a team right now out of these 3 on 31 that get the drop, it's going to be Empoli. And I've been saying all along that Frosinone were going to go down, but they have now recently strung together some results that have allowed them to stay.
Yeah.
And good for them because they play an attractive game. Now, I sat there and said a few months ago, I said, you know what? They're going to go down because they don't defend.
Yeah.
But
They've done enough.
But they've done enough. But I never said that I didn't want them to go down. I want attractive teams to continue to be in this league and continue to play attractive. So I'd venture to say that Lecce's safe, even though they could have really secured it against Monza. So, and Udinese have a couple of direct relegation clashes coming. I agree with that. So
Big games.
So we'll have to see.
I feel like if you're a fan of the Seven Sisters, you want to see Udinese and Sassuolo go down because they have so many talented players. You can just pick that team apart and get a bunch of talented players. But certainly Udinese, you'd want them to stay up just because they've been so good. The Dutch is a great place to go to watch a game. Sassuolo probably need a good reset, but Udinese, they're toting that line like that Genoa towed a couple years ago. Sampdoria. You eventually tow with that relegation line long enough, it's going to get you. And so, can Cannavaro save it? I don't know.
What if Allegri went back to Sassuolo?
Oh my gosh!
Like where it all started. He won't do it. He's going to want something a little better than that. But
Udinese.
from one zebra stripe to another, huh?
Yeah.
So anyway, Lazio are hard charging. Obviously, they're defending well. They're finding ways to win here under Tudor. So that's been helpful. I just read that the Newcastle job could get offered to Maurizio Sarri in the summer.
Oh, interesting.
That would be a very interesting. That would be a very interesting move. So,
yeah.
So we'll keep an eye. Let's keep an eye on that one. But I think that things are starting. I mean, this is starting to get more and more realistic that Bologna are going to finish top 5 and reach the Champions League. They're starting to stumble just enough, though, which concerns me. And, you have to have concerns that Thiago Motta could be on the way. They're still scraping by. They don't lose games. They've had draws here, but, the win at Roma, but drawing Monza, drawing Frosinone and not scoring. They've had some games here where they have struggled to put the ball in the back of the net. So that's worth watching as all of this goes on. So let's just see Bologna's run in. I think Lazio had the easiest run in, had an easier run in, but
say the position of the table doesn't change, right? And Atalanta win the Europa League. They get in Champions League. Does it knock Bologna out, or is that 6 teams for Serie A? I've heard both ways.
I think it's 6 teams. But here's the thing with Bologna, Bologna's running. They're at Torino, at Napoli, hosting Juve, and then at Genoa.
Oof.
Other
than Genoa, those are hard games. But
yeah,
they've done well those kind of games.
Yeah, and then let's look at Lazio's run in. I mean, that's so it's not totally a done deal here. I mean, the point total makes you feel like they're going to be safe. Lazio are at Monza. They host Empoli. I got to think they win both of those games. They're at Inter. Inter might be trying to break 100, so they're going to be motivated. And they finish the season home against Sassuolo. Sassuolo might be relegated by that. I mean, Lazio may end up with 9 points and might end up on 64, which, then it's only going to take one win for Bologna to overcome them. But then you got to see how Roma and you got to see how Atalanta do. So it might be a case of too little, too late for Lazio. And that's if they top out at 9 points like we talked about. So
yeah, I think what you're gonna have to, as long as you keep pace with Lazio in terms of points, Roma, Atalanta, you're gonna hope one of them wins Europa League, at least to make it 6 teams in the Champions League for Bologna. That way you don't have to worry. But if they get one good result against one of those big teams, then that pretty much locks it up for them. But that's a big if. Some of those opponents are still, the Juve game could be a place where they get a point. But in the Napoli game as well, Napoli certainly can be dominant, but they've also had their mistakes. So yeah, we'll see. It depends on what kind of Bologna they have been slipping up as of late. Can they clean it up enough, and can some of their players, their star players, big players, kind of step up in these situations and get them points, like Salamakers this weekend, getting a big goal there. Yeah, I said Salamakers a big player, right? So we'll see. It'll be to be determined, but it looks like they're somewhat safe. It's come down to 6 teams. I don't think Lazio's really in that mix right now, but it says 6 teams, and we're hoping that Italian teams wins the Europa League and Conference League. Then that would be 6 teams in Champions League, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
Roma's next 2 Serie A games, hosting Juventus, and then they're at Atalanta on May 12th.
That could be decided right there.
And then they host Genoa, and then they finish out at Empoli. So that's a pretty tough run-in. If you think they get the 6 points from Genoa and from Empoli, then 65. If we're saying Lazio finish on 64, then they're safe. Well, now it means Atalanta could still snatch it from Roma. Let's see what their run-in is. They're at Salernitana, 3 points there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they host Roma. Let's say they get the 3 points there. So that's 6. They're at Lecce. That's 9. And then they finish with hosting Torino. 66. Atalanta and Bologna would be the teams that grab the 4th and 5th spots. So, so we'll see what happens. And to Vincent's point, Roma coming off of having to play Leverkusen, it's just going to be a incredible test for De Rossi to manage his players through those 2 games, and make sure they come out of it, healthy, and come out of it with results. So, so it's going to be really interesting, for Roma. They've got some very difficult games coming up. The back-to-back, the 2 Europa games with Leverkusen, and then they've got Juve and Atalanta sandwiched in there. This is a big few weeks.
They're definitely tested.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. So, but right now, if I had to look at these teams and look at how the way this could potentially play out, I think it's Inter 1, Milan 2, Juve 3. Atalanta jumps all the way to 4th, and then Bologna grabs 5th. Is where I'm falling out on this right now. So, So Bologna's on 63. If I've got them winning a game, Atalanta and Bologna will have the same amount of points, and then after that, it comes down to goal difference. So, which Atalanta might have the edge. So, right now, that's kind of just based on how the fixtures and how everything is set up. That's the way I see it. So, which could leave Roma out in the cold unless they can find a way to win the Europa League. So, and it leaves Lazio out. So.
I think I'll stay with the trend as your friend, right? And we haven't seen much movement in the top 6 really for a while now. So I'll probably say it finishes like the way it is now: Bologna, Roma, Atalanta. But again, one of the 2 teams in Europa League wins the Europa League. We'll have 6 teams. That's the best case scenario. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be curious because we got a lot of big games coming up here between head-to-head and like opponents. It's going to be certainly an entertaining, interesting month here in May. So,
and you got to remember that Atalanta have that game in hand. So they could certainly. I right now with the way the fixtures are playing out in the run-ins, I certainly see Atalanta at this point jumping Roma. Yeah. And grabbing top 5, and I think Atalanta could possibly even jump to 4th with Bologna 5th. So sure. Is how I anticipate the way that's going to play out. So it's going to be fun. And down to the relegation battle, as I said, I think Udinese gets out of their position at 18th. And I'm just going to say it's at the cost of Empoli. Empoli just don't score enough. They're going to find themselves in some games here where they're going to come up. They've got some very difficult games. We just read their name with a couple of these teams trying to grab Champions League places. I don't think it's looking good for them. So,
I'm with you.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. So what do you got for goals of the week?
Goals of the week. All right. Number 5 for me, I'm going with Sportiello. He had a free kick save and a double save in the game. He had lots of saves in that game. So Sportiello is making my top 5. Number 4, Çalhanoğlu's first goal, that side volley. I liked it a lot. The good form on that. Number 3, I'm going Adam Lukman with his nice run and then gets a goal there for the second goal there for Atalanta. Number 2, I'm going to go Salsicha Makers, Salamakers with the free kick. Wonderfully done off the crossbar. But for me, the Kristovic banger that he had, man, that was a sensational volley.
Yeah.
That had violence on that there. No one's going to stop that. So that's why Kristovic gets my number 1. How about you?
Yeah. I'm going to go honorable mention for Zortea, his solo goal for Frosinone against Salernitana. I've got Sotil's curler in at number 5 for Fiorentina, the opening goal against Sassuolo. I'll go with the solo goal from Adamola Lookman for Atalanta in at number 4. Number 3 for me, I love the team goal by Genoa that finished off by Morten Frendrup. So I put that in at number 3. And I'm with you on 1 and 2. Salamaker's free kick is number 2. The volley by Kristovic is number 1 for me.
Yep.
So the Oliveira goal does not make the list, unfortunately, for Lega Serie A. So we got some very interesting Europa League games to talk about.
We do.
You know, let's start with Roma and Leverkusen. You have some familiarity with Leverkusen from observing Bundesliga. Obviously, everybody has familiarity with Leverkusen from their the fact that they still unbeaten all season, or did they
still
finally
unbeaten?
drop the game?
No, they in stoppage time they got a tying goal this weekend.
Nope, that's just astonishing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I know Frimpong is an extremely dangerous wingback on the right-hand side. I know Florian Wirtz is the next great playmaker that is probably going to end up at Bayern Munich because he's German and he's a superstar. And there's nothing Leverkusen's going to be able to do about it. But I think Xabi Alonso's staying because he's probably been given some promises that players like that are going to stay as well. Take your pick of attackers that they can score with, guys like Boniface, Anime Adli, Sheik when they use them. They can beat you a bunch of different ways. This is just an extremely well-managed team. From watching Leverkusen this season, what does Roma have to do to win over 2 legs?
Mistake-free football and not be opportunistic. They can't have 11 turnovers or whatever they had against Napoli and expect to get a result out of Leverkusen. Leverkusen is a very well-disciplined, very well-drilled team who have a flair for the attack. They can score goals. They like to come and counterattack and hit you with pace. Really good talent on this team, and they don't give up. Obviously, they haven't lost all season long. They find ways, and so it's going to be a dogfight for 180 minutes, no doubt about it. But they have to play near-perfect football. I think offensively they have the skill set. A guy like Paulo Dybala can break down any team in the world. You got big men like Abraham and Lukaku when they're on their game. That'll be obviously challenging for the defense, but they have to limit their mistakes. Villar is a huge asset for them, which it's to their benefit. But the mistakes they have to limit because this Leverkusen team is that good. Xabi Alonso's team are so well drilled, and so they've been tested, no doubt about it. You have to bring your best game. I expect a Pellegrini to kind of step up and help lead the charge here. Him and Dybala, really. They're going to have to be 2 of the best players on the pitch at all times, I think. And it's going to be taking advantage of the home team. The first game is going to be huge. The crowd's going to be raucous. You know it is. And so taking advantage of it, getting an early goal, make Leverkusen question themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, they've been undefeated. It's having a fantastic season. They won the Bundesliga. But this is, uncharted territories for Xabi Alonso and his team. They're all fairly youngsters, right? And so under pressure, how do they respond? They've responded very well all season long, but playing at the Stadio Olimpico is a different animal. And if you can get a goal, even 2-goal lead early on, make them think and question themselves, that'll put you in a good spot going back to Bayer Arena. I think Roma they need to go away with a win, obviously, or I would say a score draw. I think a 0-0 draw would not be a good thing going into Leverkusen just because the confidence there wouldn't be there. You want to have the confidence that you can score against them, right? So a 2-2 scoreline would be better than a 0-0 one because then I can't score Leverkusen at home. Then I got to go to their home. Yeah, that's going to be hard. But I think Roma are capable of getting a win. But it's going to be difficult. I think odds on the more likely scenario would be a draw. But score, draw, or win for Roma, I think will be good for them going into the second leg. What about you?
Yep. If there's a saving grace for Roma here, Leverkusen have struggled away in the Europa League. I remember Karabakh, they had to come from behind to get a draw out of that game. So they could have that going for them. I mean, they've got to take a lead to the Bayerina or they're done. I don't know if they do it. I still think there's some struggles with Roma with scoring and what they're doing in attack. I was not encouraged by the performance against Napoli. I understand that they tried some different players. So in those veins, I wasn't enthused by what I saw, and Lukaku will be back, so that will probably help them. But there's still been a theme of struggling to get goals, and you're going to have to. We talked about this. Said Roma's going to have to stop Milan because they're not going to be able to score with them. They're going to have to stop Leverkusen because they're damn sure not going to be able to score with them. And that's where I think it falls. I think it falls apart. I think this goes 1-1 on Thursday, which does not look good for Roma. I'm a believer in this Leverkusen team. They've been fantastic all season. They've won the Bundesliga. They're at a level that even with Daniele De Rossi in charge and the job he's done here with Roma, I think this Leverkusen team has proven over the course of the season that they are a level ahead. And it's just going to be a bridge too far for Roma at this time. I think over the course of the two games, I think Leverkusen are going to go through the final. But this particular game of the Olimpico, I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I'll go 2-1 Roma. I think I've underestimated them all season long, and they've always gone higher than my expectations. It seems like in Europe, I should say. I think Dybala is going to have one of his games where he's just being world class. Pellegrini as well, and I think they're going to need that to have the opportunity to score 2 goals. And if they're opportunistic with their strikers and getting in the box, taking their chances, 2-1. It'll be a surprise for everybody because that'll be their first loss for Leverkusen in theory, but not really. So they're gonna need it. They're gonna need it. So 2-1 Roma going into the second leg. Yep.
Moving on, we've got Marseille and Atalanta at the Velodrome in Marseille. I think this is a very fascinating game. You've had Marseille have been able to revive Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And he's the danger man for Marseille. I think they've got Harit, who I think wasn't he a Schalke guy for a while? If I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think. Jonathan Klaus coming down the right-hand side is just a crossing machine. And they've got some useful players, in this attack and in this setup. So this is not going to be easy for Atalanta. But I think this is a tie that suits Atalanta in the sense that they get to go away in the first game and try to get something and then bring it home. Verdi also, Verdi has been, and he's had a good season for Marseille as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go score draw on this one as well. I think this is going to be actually a very entertaining game. Both these teams like to attack. They're very efficient when they get their chances. I think 2-2 is a fair result for this game. And it sets up nicely for Atalanta to win the return leg and reach the Europa League final, which I think they will do. I'm looking at a Leverkusen-Atalanta final.
Okay. I like your shot. Marseille, obviously difficult. Going to the Stade Velodrome is going to be a huge ask. It's a hard place to play. One of the stadiums that are definitely on my bucket list for sure. However, I think as good as Marseille has been this year and in this tournament, if Atalanta can figure a way, whether it's through Martin de Roon, Ederson, or whomever, really kind of put a focus on Aubameyang. He's been their catalyst, really, with 14 goals, 8 assists. You take him out of the equation, who's the next man up for Marseille? That is to be determined. And if you can find a way to put lots of pressure on Aubameyang, force anybody else to try to break through the defense, your chances will be going through the roof at that point. And I think Atalanta have the players on their team to do that, to eliminate him. If it was if we're talking about 5 players or 4 players or something like that, even 3 players, maybe more difficult to ask, obviously. But it's 1 player. I think if you can really take Aubameyang out of the game and force everybody else to try to beat you, I think Atalanta have a better chance because they do have Coop miners. They have such a nice attack. They have multiple players. It's not just Scamacca. I mean, they have so many different players on their team. It just happened to be the last game that Scamacca's one to stood up. I think Atalanta can continue that wave of positive results, and I can see them going to Marseille with a 2-1 victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got a victory. I've got a draw, and a victory wouldn't surprise me either. So, but we both think Atalanta will reach the final, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do we both have Leverkusen and Atalanta in the final, or are you going to bang the drum for an all-Italian final?
I'm just gonna go ahead and bang the drum for an all-time final. Roma. Atalanta.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Someone's got to do it.
Nice. I like it. Let's see. So Fiorentina will host Club Bruges in the Conference League semifinals. This is a Bruges team that is starting to score goals like it's going out of style. They will be a difficult ask here for Fiorentina, but I still think Fiorentina will be good enough to go through. The concerns that I have for Fiorentina's chances in this tie is that they can be a little naive defensively. This is a Bruges team that has, they have some talent. I mean, Hans Vanaken has been a veteran there, and he has been there forever, and has had so many chances to jump ship and go to another club, and he has stayed in his home country. Andreas Skov-Olsen, everybody will know who he is. He's part of this setup. Rafael Onyedika is a talented player for them. Just kind of going down the list. Simon Mignolet obviously has a ton of experience, as a top goalkeeper for him. Nordin Jakers has also been in goal. I think they switch off, but Mignolet has been playing the Europa League games. And then their leading scorer is Igor Thiago. He has 18 goals for them in the Belgian Pro League. You've got Ferran Jutgla, who's a talent as well, capable of scoring. So, Club Bruges has been one of these clubs that the big boys are picking at. And then Maxim de Kuiper. This is another guy you might want to take a look at and have some consideration for. He's a left back. You know what he wants to do? He wants to get forward and he wants to cross the shit out of the ball. And he's got 8 assists in the Pro League this season. So they've got ways they can attack Fiorentina. Okay. I think Fiorentina are narrowly going to reach this final. I don't think that people are going to look at the Club Brugge name and they're going to say, Belgian League, it's going to be a walk. Okay. Fiorentina can't afford to just assume they're going to throw their shirt on the pitch and that they're going to win, because that doesn't happen with Fiorentina. Okay. They're a little more adventurous than that. I'll give them the first leg. I think they win 3-1. I think that just the home crowd, the Artemio Franchi, but Bruges is going to get a goal, and they're going to score early in the second leg in Belgium. That's going to put some pressure on Fiorentina. I think ultimately Fiorentina is going to narrowly reach this Conference League final. I've got a lot of respect for this Club Bruges team.
Yeah, no, I think I'm right there with you. I actually like that shot a lot. I think Fiorentina, if they're smart, they try to put as many goals past Club Brugge as possible at home. Because I do think, if it is somewhat within reach, like you said, if a 3-1 scoreline going into the second leg, that one goal, we've seen it. They even happened to Atalanta and Liverpool. Liverpool scored that early goal. You're like, are we going to have an upset here? And it didn't happen. That very well could have. This Club Brugge team is a good team. They've taken down some big names in the tournament thus far. I like that shot. I think Fiorentina needs to handle business, and I mean handle business. I mean 3-1 at minimum at home. And then going to Club Brugge, hold on for dear life. You don't have to get a win there. You just got to get the result. And I certainly am banging the drum for Fiorentina going to the final in the Conference League. So, and it could be against possibly Aston Villa. I believe that's who is in the other side. Aston Villa Olympiacos. Probably Aston Villa, but yeah, I'm with Fiorentina.
Yep, Fiorentina. You think it's a Fiorentina Aston Villa final?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Unai. I mean, Aston Villa. It's Unai Emery in a cup competition. It's
exactly.
It's about as academic as it gets. So,
yeah.
But Maxime de Kuyper, 23-year-old left back. You're gonna watch him and you're gonna think you're watching Cristiano Biraghi. The Belgian Biraghi, let's call him that. So
Okay. I like it.
so it'll be interesting to see how our teams do, but it looks like we're live for at least 2 of our 3 Serie A teams reaching finals here. In cup competitions, maybe all 3. If you ask Richard, he says it's going to happen. So I've got a little more respect for Leverkusen than that. But
All right.
anyway, with all of that, I think we can wrap this bad boy up with the world's most popular hashtag game, Who Won Calcio Twitter. Richard, take it away.
All right. Well, kicking things off, we have Simply Goal, and it's so Marcus Thuram. There was a Zoom meeting between Çalhanoğlu, Marcus Thuram, and Steven Zhang, and so Thuram had a request after winning the scudetto. He says, "Me and Çalhanoğlu cost €0. €0. Your car costs more. We want a gift." And then Zhang was saying, "I knew it was a mistake to participate in this live."
Yep. There you go. There you go. Moving on at It's ABC. Breaking, Atalanta have announced the signing of free agent Gianluca Giamacca, who will be available to play in the Coppa Italia final. This is on the heels of Gianluca Giamacca getting suspended for that final.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Let's see. What else is next? All right. Apex nominates. All right. So the original tweet was from Milan I. It says, if Real Madrid want to show you, they need to give us Di Maria, Modric, Casillas, and Carvajal, and about 60 million. Okay, this is 2013. Allegri. Oh,
Nice.
That's good.
Let's see. So Anthony nominated our guest host next weekend, Michael Lisi, transfer expert number 101. Say something will happen. This is in reaction to Milan Post saying
Lopetegui
Lopetegui getting pretty much the fans saying absolutely not, and then the Milan brass saying all right, fine. Transfer expert 101. Say something will happen, then say it won't. Nothing happens at all, and you were right twice.
Brilliant.
It's about how it works out.
Yeah. All right.
It's been a short list.
Some good ones,
I
though.
think. What's that?
I said short but good.
I think it's ABC.
ABC. Which one's ABC?
The Gianluca Giamacca.
Oh yeah. It's ABC. I see. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
All right,
I like
I'll go ahead and make that one the winner then.
Oh man. All right. Well, while you do that, gonna give a quick shout out to. Let me turn off Benny Hill here. Quick shout out to our friend Mo in Minneapolis. We were talking to him this weekend during the Milan Juve game. So shout out to Mo in Minnesota there up north of you, even Frank. Well, yeah, north of you. So.
Yeah, north and west.
North and west, yeah. So, that's my shout out there. And then
he mentioned that he was watching the Juve Milan game with a couple of guys that listened to our podcast, but he didn't say if they said nice things about us. So he said they said mean things about you, Richard. But I think he was kidding.
that's fine.
Yeah.
My feelings don't get hurt, so.
Yeah. So. It would have been nice to know. Well, okay, thanks, Mo. What were they good things? Were they anyway? It's not bad. We should. We'll tell them we say thank you for listening. That's probably what we should say.
Exactly. It's a shout out. Shout out to Milan Club Minnesota. How about that? There you
go. Yep. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, with all of that, I think we'll put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there's podcasts. There's Serie A Sit Down. At Serie A Sit Down on Twitter or Instagram. Check us out there. Check us out on Facebook. Here on the YouTube channel, if you're watching us for the first time, please, and you enjoyed it, and particularly if you definitely enjoyed it, I would suggest you subscribe because we've been doing this every week. Although next season we're going to be doing it every month. So this is going to be your last few weeks of us being on here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
go.
Subscribe.
And if you don't like Serie A, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, because Richard has said that before. hit the notification bell. That gives you the heads up for when we go live on the air. And again, that's every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then also hit that like button. That helps us out a lot. Thank you, Vincent. You're very kind. I think that's about it. So I am going to be in Vegas next week for a convention for my real job. And Michael Lisi will be sitting in my seat while I'm gone. So I do not expect you two to behave while I'm gone, but so I will be back in a couple weeks.
Will he be in your basement? Well, that's the question.
No, he won't be in my basement.
Oh,
he'll
okay.
He'll be on this half of the screen on the channel though.
Okay.
So we didn't go that far. So
okay, it's continuity,
anyway. Yeah. So there's only so many people are allowed to have the Rat Pack for a background.
There you go. Okay, right on.
All right. Well, with that in mind, that is it for this edition of Serie A Sit Down. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. And as always, keep telling your paisans about us. Ciao.
Sul fondo mette in mezzo la calcia di Lorenzo e il Napoli è passato. Zielinski, Italia. Brooke Rada Bobby, the tapped in by Osimhen.
You know you hurt, I grow.